Hello, friends. Hello, everyone. I have pleasure to see you today. And today, the theme of our event is the experience of smart city development from the members of Urban Technology Alliance. Our guest is Dr. Levent Gürgen. He is the president of Urban Technology Alliance. He is also the founder of and president of the startup company Kentyou that provides open innovation enabler for smarter cities. Before creating Kentyou, he was R&D project manager in CEST for about 10 years. He has coordinated and been involved in numerous collaborative smart city projects involving various cities in Europe and in Asia. His involvement in those projects has been awarded in 2016 by the French Ministry of Research and Education as one of the 12 stars of Europe. And this talk will provide a short presentation of the Urban Technology Alliance. Levent, I'm happy to see you on our event. And my first question, can you please tell us shortly about the Urban Technology Alliance, its mission, tasks, and the members?
Okay, thanks Yuriy again for the invitation. It's a great honor to be here and presenting you our activities. I can talk about a bit the Urban Technology Alliance. If you want, I have a couple of slides that I can show. Maybe we have some visual background elements. Let me share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we see.
Yes, okay. Yeah, so indeed, I'm the president of the Urban Technology Alliance, which is a global alliance for testing and validating innovative smart city solutions. Is indeed a global alliance that we have been based on years of collaboration with many of the partners in the past. We have finally decided to create a non-profit association. We have been incorporated on December 2019. It was just before this unfortunate COVID pandemic, but anyway, we have created as a non-profit association in Geneva. For sure, this pandemic had kind of slowed down our activities, but now we are starting to come back in full force with our activities. So in this alliance, we have leading cities like big cities, medium-sized cities, smaller cities, Grenoble from France, Taipei, Korean cities like Busan, Daejeon, Bucheon, Sijeong, Japanese cities, other European cities. So it's really an international community where we share our experiences, lessons learned. In addition to the cities, what is very important for us is the academic partners as well, because they are there to provide this neutral guidance to those cities, in addition to, for sure, the industry. So without the industrial partners, we cannot realize those test environments, test deployments. So all these three members are together in this event, in this community, to join forces, to build up teams, and to test smart city innovation before their large-scale deployment. So we have these three main purposes in the mission, let's say, of the Urban Technology Alliance. We are providing city-scale test beds because we know that smart city solutions, they cannot be validated in the lab environment. So they need to be with the cities, with the citizens. They are the only ones that they can validate and they can approve if this is a real smart solution. So, and also not from only technical perspective, but also from economic and social perspectives. We are also providing a matchmaking platform, so which is indeed basically to bring together these three actors, which are used to work kind of in an isolated manner. There are some difficulties indeed to build a common language and to build a common platform to bring together those actors. And in this matchmaking platform, the cities indeed need this neutral guidance. The industrial partners, they have indeed these testing environments in order to showcase also their solutions to not only to the cities, but also to the other potential partners. And finally, the researchers, they need the real requirements from the cities and the citizens. And last but not least, UTA provides a global perspective. Indeed, we know that each city, even in a unique country, they are unique. You know, they have their own specificities. It is also the same for in the international perspective, but based on our activities, our projects that we have done, we observe that even if each city is unique, they have many, many things common. They have, you know, worldwide global challenges, environmental, economic, or social challenges. They are quite common, and they can be addressed together collectively by mutualizing our resources. So, in short, what happens is that in UTA, the cities, they are coming with their problems and with a testing environment. The innovators, they are coming indeed with their innovative solutions and also neutral guidance, because the objective of the Urban Technology Alliance is only to serve for the good of the city and the citizens. For sure, the industrial companies, they will promote their solutions, but at the end, we are providing a neutral guidance where the final choice, let's say, decision will be done by the cities for adopting a solution or not. And finally, we are also giving the opportunity to the citizens to express their needs, concerns, and they are there to validate those solutions. So how UTA is organized, we have these 5 working groups. We have the core working group, let's say, is the testbed working group. It collects the problems from the cities, solutions from the innovators, and build up teams to join forces with complementary expertises. Some partners coming with their IoT devices, some comes with the data platforms, other comes with their data analysis tools in order to complete this value chain, in order to then respond to those challenges that the cities, they express. And as I mentioned, if there are alternatives for a given solution, so the cities are the ones that they make the final choice. And around this testbed working group, we have this technical working group, actually, which accompanies this testbed working group, providing technical guidelines, provides recommending reference architectures, recommending standards, and providing some integration plans. Business working group, another important group, which provides these networking opportunities to, first of all, to build partnerships among the members, but also to look for funding to those testing. So it can be private funding, but it can also be public funding, regional, national, international funding. We are very closely working with the European funding programs to fund those deployments, and we have quite successful number of projects that have been funded, for instance, from the European programs. We have the sustainability working group, which is there to define metrics, KPIs for validation of those deployments in order to show that the solutions will be sustainable. It will not be just only fast prototyping. And finally, the social working group, which are there to remind to the technical people that is indeed the solutions should be targeting the citizens, and here to be actually to raise the voice of the citizens. And to give also the opportunity to give them the express their needs. And part of our activities, networking activities in particular, we are regularly organizing events. Unfortunately, besides our first event, a pre-launch event, let's say, that we have organized first in Tokyo, the other was in Barcelona during the Smart City event. Now we have organized our, let's say, third event in December in virtually, let's say, and having invited several members, but also partners, which would be the future, let's say, members of the Urban Technology Alliance. You know, we can explore actually the event. The replays are there on our website, on our YouTube channel. You can explore all this presentation that has been done with all of these partners that you see here. And you you can then feel free to contact us if you need any further information. So before finalizing my short presentation introduction to the Urban Technology Alliance, I want to just give you a couple of examples because they are kind of the core of the Urban Technology Alliance. So some of the testbed examples that we are providing in Urban Technology Alliance. Sejong City is a Korean city which is being the new center of Korea, has recently done a large investments in the smart city topic, and they are now being one of the pilot smart city cities in Korea. They have identified some priority areas like mobility, healthcare, or energy. And there's a very interesting presentation from the head of the smart city unit of the city of Sejong on our website and the YouTube channel. So please feel free to look at that. Another important, let's say, smart city initiative in Korea, maybe one of the leading activity, Busan. They have kind of not only built kind of large district areas from scratch, but also renovating different areas. And which is quite interesting in Busan, and I really like, is that they have already identified KPIs, these 28 KPIs that they have identified, which really show that where they want to go, what are their ultimate goals, which is very important in such smart city initiatives. We have some other Korean cities. Again, you can watch the presentation done by the master planner of the Busan Eco Delta City on our YouTube channel. We have also Taipei, which have this smart city as a living lab approach. Now it's been a lot of years, maybe more than 10 years, that they are working on this topic, and this is maybe one of the most populated member city of your Urban Technology Alliance. Again, they have identified these different priority areas, and on which they are organizing. They have organized already hundreds of proof of concept projects. They are very open to international collaboration. In this proof of concept, you can see several companies from France, from US, from other parts of the world. And this is also another, let's say, city which are being very open to this international cooperation. Saitama City, another city that is being kind of very active in the smart city domain, which have one of the rare cities in Japan that they have fixed this carbon neutral objective, being a carbon neutral city by 2050. So they are also hosting several smart city events that will be coming in 2022 in particular. Fujisawa City as well, they are very open to international collaboration. We had already organized a couple of smart city projects with them. Vancouver, very open to green tech in particular. So Santander City, which is one of the, let's say, pioneer city in EU, initiating the smart city activities actually. And I saw that you have already invited the mayors of Santander in one of your talks. And they are a member of our alliance indeed. Grenoble, which is an innovation city, capital of the Alps. And they are, also very open to collaboration, and we have already organized different proof of concept from different topics like increasing quality of experience of workers in industrial zones. It is in the Alp Mountains, so we also have organized a smart ski experiment there. The objective was kind of improving the quality of experience of the skiers, improving the efficiency of the management of the ski stations in the area. So as you see, we are covering a certain number of different application areas, let's say. So, and we have many others that you can explore being a member or exploring our website or participating to the events that we are organizing with our partners. And yeah, sorry, I took maybe a bit more time than planned, but here is the overall vision of Urban Technology Alliance.
Wow, it's very interesting. You do very serious work. And by the way, maybe 2 months ago, we had a meeting with Mayor of Santander, and for me, it's very interesting to hear that you supported Santander City in Smart City initiative.
Exactly. Yeah, Santander is a long-term partner with us. We have been working with them maybe more than 6-7 years. In many smart city projects, we work with them. Yeah.
And we agreed that next year we will visit Santander to investigate experience of building smart city. But you know, I would like to ask you. Sometimes we have different definition of smart city. Yeah, in different professional community, and I think all of experts has different explanation. What is smart city, and what does smart city mean for you?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question, a fundamental question in particular. Indeed,
Yes.
There is no correct or not correct, but there is not a one unique definition, right, for that. And sometimes when I indeed discuss about the smart city, I start with explaining what indeed the smartness means, right? If you look at the dictionary, smartness is a smart person is mainly a person who can conceive well what's going around, right? Understand what's going on around, that can reason fast, can understand, can process the things fast, and then make actions which have desirable effects. So, which is very important, this desirable effects part. I will come to that, but before that, so for a smart city to be smart, so we need to have all these elements. So we have to well understand what's going on around, and for this we have the technology. We have the IoT sensing devices that can now tell us what's going on around in real time in the city, right? So the second step is to understand those information. So for that we have also the technology. Now we have the AI, machine learning, big data processing. So we have all of this stuff, so that we can get information from the city, not in real time, but also in a predictive way. We can maybe sometimes predict the future. So these are perfect, great, advanced progresses for the smartness. But what is still kind of lack, and this is the critical point, is this making actions with desirable effects. And this desirable part is still not well perceived, so that this desirable from the cities and the citizens. This is the point which is lacking actually. And this is also the reason why many smart city activities have been failed, because they did not have these desirable effects. They had these perfect, great IoT devices, very high speed, high computing stuff. But at the end, the cities and the citizens were not satisfied, because they did not have it does not respond to the needs of them. So it did not have the desirable effects, so that they failed. So for me, these key elements are important. And the most important is this last part, having the desirable effects desired from the cities and the citizens.
Oh, no, thank you. You have been involved in a smart city project in different cities and countries. We see that. Do those cities have different visions? Do their technologies, approaches, and of they contain similarities?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Actually, as I was saying also in my presentation, we know that each city has its specificities. Economic, environmental, climate, let's say, cultural. So there are many differences. But as you know, nowadays the world is facing different challenges. Environmental challenge is one of the maybe important one, in addition to social economic challenges. So as we observed, and we have done several international projects, we have done many European projects. We brought together European cities. We have brought together with cities, as you saw, from Japan, from Korea, from Taiwan. And indeed, we have observed that those challenges, technical challenges for sure, which are the most common ones, but beyond those technical challenges, everyone wants to reduce the mobility issue. Everyone wants to use clean energy. Everyone wants to provide more sustainable solutions. So those are indeed common ones. And what we have observed is that when we were doing these common projects, that we were sometimes kind of replicating the things. So our Japanese partners were doing on their own world, let's say, doing very similar stuff that we were also doing in Europe. So we said, okay, why not joining forces and to maybe exchange what we are doing in both sides, so that we don't replicate things and we reuse things, and so that we can mutualize this effort, so that we can, make the things progress a bit faster. So, the short answer to the question, yes, indeed, there are different visions. They are sometimes using different standards. They have different systems or working methodologies, but at the end, many things, in terms of the architectures, in terms of some standards, in terms of process of deployments, evaluating of deployments, we have many things that we can reuse and share with those cities.
And from my experience and the experience of my colleagues, there are a lot of barriers, that can be met in implementation smart city solution. These barriers are technical, regulatory, economical, societal, etc. How UTA can help to remove these barriers and support to improve startups and implement startups?
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed, the barriers are indeed many, but at the same time, I would say the technical barriers are not the ones that are kind of the most important barrier. So indeed, maybe a technical person would not say the same. I'm a technical person, but I'm kind of trying to open a bit on the other aspects of the smart city. I don't think that we need very high technology or, the ultimate generation connectivity, ultimate generation miniaturized devices to make a city. I will not say to make a city smart, but make it smarter at least. So we can do many stuff that we can manage it better, in more efficient way for the better living of the citizens. And for this, yes, indeed, there are some barriers. For me, the most important barriers, indeed, for the startups, and being a kind of recently created a startup company on the smart city solutions, actually, indeed, this possibility of interaction with the cities is quite limited for the startup companies in particular. And those startup companies, for me, they would have these innovative ideas, and they are, they are this lean approach. They are kind of agile, and they can develop things fast. And for this, what we like is indeed to be able to communicate with the cities. So, which is one of the reasons why we have joined, and we are kind of leading the Urban Technology Alliance, to be able to be closer to the cities. But for me today, if I was a large operator president instead of president of a startup company, it would be certainly easier to discuss with the cities. So this lack of, in the process of communication with the cities, I think it's between the small companies in particular, for me is an important barrier. So this lack of platforms or environments to increase the communication between those innovators and the cities. This is a kind of, let's say, not really a regulatory, but maybe business related barrier. So for sure there are some regulatory barriers. To be able to work with a city, you have these public tender processes. They are quite heavy and long processes. So even if there are recently some actions being accepted or kind of conducted from the governments, I know from France, also from Europe, that can facilitate this procurement of innovation, that indeed goes beyond a bit, kind of facilitates this interaction. But I think still there are things to do in order to facilitate this public-private partnership, in order to foster this innovation. Yeah, so we talk about economic, regulatory, technical, as I mentioned. I don't think, I don't think that technology is a barrier. We with what we have currently, we can go much further than they are currently, the cities, many cities. So I don't talk about the technological technology as a barrier. So yeah, so if I have to rank the priority, I would say the economic barrier, this lack of communication between innovators and cities, regulatory, and then finally it would be for me the technological barriers.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the urban tech concept is new for Ukraine, of course, and this is due to the difficulties in attracting private investment. We have bad investment climate, and the lack of experience also. What needs are to be investigated first to determine which technologies to start with? What can you recommend?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I will do indeed, following up indeed my previous response, that for me the technology is not the way to start with.
Yes. Yes.
For me, to start with is the city and the citizen. So actually, it's a conversation that we regularly have with these cities, right? So the technological people like us, we are asking to the cities, okay, what is your problem? Tell me about your issues in your city. And the response mainly from the cities is that, okay, tell me about your technology, what you propose, and then I can see how I can apply in my problems, right? So this is always a dialogue that sometimes is a bit difficult, but we have to start from somewhere. And for me, one of the most important place to start with is indeed to well identify what you really need, what are your priorities, what your citizens need. So I think the process should start with well analyzing what are their current needs, and then how technology can respond to those needs. And when we talk about technology, as I mentioned, if you want to talk about some specific technologies that are really would be helpful for cities, for sure, Internet of Things, this machine learning and AI technologies that can provide very interesting stuff for the predictive analysis, and this connectivity that are coming, indeed 5G, etc. So all of those are enablers for building those, let's say, increasing the smartness or helping to put in place some smartness roadmaps. But again, before setting up a 5G infrastructure or before deploying a bunch of sensors everywhere, I think for me the most critical part is for the cities to understand what they want to do, what they want to achieve, to identify clear indicators. So I want to reduce the usage of, or increase the usage of public transportation by 20% in 10 years, or I want to reduce the carbon emission by 20% in 20 years, or I want to increase the traffic flow in this period of the year 10%. This kind of indicators I want to increase. Most importantly, the quality of experience, quality of life of the citizens, with some indicators. You can also have some indicators for that. So, these are for me the things to start before thinking of these large infrastructures and the technological stuff, which are being increasingly accessible indeed. Open source tools, or the telecom operators are now deploying very easily these 5G infrastructures. Even many cities, they started to deploy their own networks, right? The low power, long range infrastructures like LoRa infrastructures, they are kind of starting to operate their own networks, which I would certainly recommend to start with before kind of investing large infrastructures. If you have some technical staff, and if you have some technical people that can kind of operate this network, which is not so complicated actually, your own this LoRa network, starting with deploying a couple of IoT devices and putting in place some open source platforms, open source data analytic tools, so that you start to experiment. And while experimentation, making this continuous validation with the citizens in particular and other stakeholders, cities and citizens in particular, so that you progressively learn from your experiences, and then to start to invest a bit more to the areas where you indeed gather successful results and interesting results.
Yeah, and when we started the Kyiv Smart City initiative, we did investigation, social investigation from 1,000 citizens, technical community, innovative community, technological companies, and we defined 5 areas to improve thanks smart city solution. Yeah, and it was transportation and mobility, utilization, e-democracy projects, modernization of city management, etc. But you gave good recommendations that we should define indicators, and we did not define for us KPIs, and we did not investigate progress of these KPIs. And maybe provocative question, which smart cities, in your opinion, are leading the way? In Europe, in worldwide, what do you think? Which city is more smarter?
Mm-hmm. That's a big question, and naturally I don't have an answer, let's say, and it would be a kind of complex to answer exactly, because for something that indeed, I saw also that you have welcome Charles Reed Anderson, right, in one of your talks. So yes. He was actually a keynote. He gave a keynote speech in our event on last December, and indeed he had started to make a ranking of the different cities, yes. And he kind of made a collection of different analysis results, different criteria, but at the end also he gave his opinion on that it is kind of aleatory, random, let's say, this kind of rankings, because we don't have really the criteria to rank those cities to say that, okay, this city is the smartest one. But what I can say maybe what could be the criteria for ranking such cities, and maybe to give you some examples of smart city examples that I have seen in the past years. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, for me, the smartness of a city would not be kind of measured the coverage of the 5G in the city, or how many homes are connected with fiber connection, or it will not be with number of IoT devices deployed in the city. For me, indeed, the measure of the smartness of the city is how most effectively they are managing their operations, how much percentage, how many percentage that they reduce or they increase the performance of their infrastructure management. How, in particular, what is the quality of life indicators of the citizens? What is the satisfaction measures or levels of the citizens in the city? So, if we can have these indicators, the responses to those indicators, then it would be easier, I would say, ranking of a city to be smart. And if you consider this, for instance, the Nordic cities seem to be doing good in terms of livability, the quality of life, in particular. So for me, the smartest city is where the citizens are happy. Yeah. I would say there's a strict correlation between this happiness level and the smartness level of the city. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, for sure there are like cities like Singapore, Barcelona, Paris, some even small cities in France in particular. I can give you an example. 2 cities in particular, they have done large investments in France, Dijon and Angers cities. They have done a couple of tens of millions of euros. They invested with some private investments. But at the end, we will see the results. Indeed, for this, we have 2 kinds of cities actually. We have, or 2 types of categories of smart city approach. one approach is, okay, I will collect a bunch of money and a bunch of companies, one or several companies. Okay, I will give this money to them and I will say them, okay, make my city smart, right? So this is one approach that has been adopted by several cities in France or in other parts of Europe. I would say a bit in Asia in particular, I would say, and large cities in Asia. So these large operators, software editors, or large consortium that, okay, you are in charge of making my city smart. And the second category, the second école, let's say, is more on open innovation approach, co-creation approach, where the city is kind of playing a role of facilitator. So they are not kind of out of the game, but they are involved more, and they are making this, creating this innovation hubs, innovation environment, where they are indeed, their role is to bring together all of these different actors, but they are experimenting continuously, and they are learning from those experiences, and they are adopting an open approach. So this open APIs, open source in some cases, open data, where they are inviting these innovators like startups or SMEs that they can indeed come with their ideas. So it's not a closed ecosystem, but it's more an open ecosystem where they can indeed invite these innovative ideas coming from, in particular, small companies, and that they are more flexible and agile, that they can kind of influence as well. They can provide more flexible solutions so that they can be customized with some specific needs of the cities. So yeah, for me, for these two different approaches, as you can guess, I prefer the open innovation approach. At the end, we will see if it works, which one works. But I've based on some past experiences, because the smart city, we are talking about that since more than 10, 15 years, and they were, I'm also presenting this in some cases. This smart city approach follows well this hype, hype approach, where in 10 years ago we were on the peak of this hype diagram, where we had all cities were mentioned like smart city, right? Everyone was smart, but then we started to fall down in this hype cycle, and we are on this true of disillusionment. So everyone was disappointed because the results were too much techno-push. It did not respond to the real needs of the cities and citizens. And now there are cities, they start to change their roadmaps and going more on this open innovation approach, because they have learned from these past experiences. And in this open innovation approach, they are defining these new roadmaps, new strategies. And hopefully this will bring us to this mature market that we have in this hype cycle. This mature market will be coming hopefully in the coming years. And this will hopefully, Urban Technology Alliance, our main mission is to indeed contribute to obtain this mature market with providing this more open innovative approach with this co-creation with citizens, with the citizen-centric approach.
It's very interesting. I think it would be a good idea to link smart city ranking and happiness of citizens, exactly. And look to this curve. Okay, and the last question. Ukrainian cities now begin on the way of building smart cities. And what can you recommend? Which recommendation do we have to Ukrainian cities? Which right way to avoid mistakes, to be faster, smarter, etc.?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So it is indeed related to the question before, and maybe to the other. I can kind of join to those two. I mean, my first recommendation would be that you join to the Urban Technology Alliance. So that
of course, I will recommend to all of cities, all of Ukrainian cities, first of all.
Okay, thanks. And then, the second recommendation is, start with the learning or asking to the citizens, okay, what do you want? Or discussing with the city's different services. So those are the main stakeholders. So what is the problem of the person in charge of operating the mobility division of in the city, or operating the security or urban planning. So what are their individual problems? What they would like to improve in their daily life? What are their problems and how they would like to be managing in a more efficient way? So this is the city, from the city perspective. And the thing is that, you know, as you know, you were working in a city. So in the cities, all the services are quite working in isolated way. So there is not a real interaction between these different city services like mobility, energy, urban planning, security, events, economy, tourism. You know, they have their own priorities, and it's very difficult to make interaction. So maybe one important recommendation would be to set up a horizontal structure. So maybe Smart City UA can play such role. I don't know, but for instance, our Taipei city has this Smart City Management office, I think, that they are playing this horizontal role, so that they can play this facilitator role between these different divisions. So to gather all these problems and provide a common set of problems. The second would be to go to the citizens and to ask, so what would you like to improve in the daily life? So in terms of mobility, in terms of economy, social aspects, security, I guess they would have many things to say. And so citizens can be sometimes harsh, you know, they can be, you know, difficult, but, you know, this is what we have to confront it and what we have to absorb, and then to respond to their needs. And then the next step would be indeed to identify those indicators. So, okay, these are the problems. So what should set up for me a kind of those concrete objectives, concrete goals with measurable indicators, so that I can improve these, I can face this challenge and improve those different points that you identify. And then you have to set up a process where you are continuously measuring or continuously measuring these indicators. Are you on the track, or are there some deviations? But you have to take some actions to reconsider the trajectory, let's say. And at the end, and this evaluation that you do, you have to go back to those citizens or to the city officers to get their continuous feedback in order to, you know, keep the trajectory towards these indicators. And then comes the technological part. Okay, so for sure, once you identify your goals, indicators, so then you can decide on what are the minimum needs of this such infrastructure that you may have, and what could be the innovative ideas of applications or services. Again, this is a co-innovation approach where you can invite indeed those startups or large companies. For sure, they can join. They have their open innovation, let's say, units in general. They are there for this. They can also support startups, so that they can, technologically speaking, give their opinions on how they can indeed respond to those specific problems. And then city, or this horizontal structure that they can create, can play this role of facilitator and orchestrating everything, and to start experimenting. And finally, when the solution is mature enough, satisfying enough, then can be adopted as a ultimate solution for the citizens. So this is something that I can provide, and this is what we are following with our cities in Urban Technology Alliance, and we would be happy for sure to get cities on board. This is free of charge, you know, for the cities. There is no fee, so it's quite quick to join. So feel free to contact me for further information as well.
Thank you, Levent. Thank you for your participation. For me, it's big pleasure and big honor to see you as participator of our event. And this is Dr. Levent Gürgen. He is president of the Urban Technology Alliance. And colleagues, if you would like to start a smart city project, if you would like to build your city smarter, first of all, you should go to Urban Technology Alliance. Thank you, Levent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invitation. Looking forward to collaborate together.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye bye.
you. Bye bye.